Man, how y'all all are? Hey man, it's T-Guid. Today we're gonna show you how I was taught how to make a homemade roux. A lot of you guys outside the state of Louisiana might just find it simpler to buy a jarred roux, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't want to do it out of a jar and you want to do it homemade, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about equal portions. They say you use equal portions of oil versus flour. We're going to talk about that. I have a disagreement about that, but that's okay. So we're going to cover all that real quick, and let's get into it. So here we go, guys. All-purpose flour and vegetable oil. Some people use butter. Some people use bacon fat. Some people are using beef tallow. Look, the old Cajun way, we were poor, bruh. Use vegetable oil. So we got here 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 cups of vegetable oil. And some of you may be saying, man, T-Guid, that's a lot of flour and a lot of oil for just a 9-quart pot of chicken and sausage gumbo. You would be right. Hey, look, guys, just because you're making a roux don't mean you have to make just what you need for that cookout. Make an abundance of it and put it back in the icebox and use it for your next stew or something. Always make more than you think you need. You can always add, you can't take away. So I'm gonna show you how I make my roux. And then when I go to make my gumbo, I take about half of it out and then I add more in as I go along just to make sure I got the right flavor, the right consistency of the gravy. And that's how we're gonna go. So let's talk about this, guys. This is what everybody talks about. Equal portions, 2 cups and 2 cups, or 1 cup and 1 cup. T-Guid disagrees with that. I mean, when you pour that in the pot, and we're gonna show you a little bit later, it's gonna look like the roux has the foie, and that's Cajun French for diarrhea. I mean, it's gonna be real runny, real liquidy. T-Guid likes his roux a little bit more with body, and when you pass your spatula down at the bottom of the pot, you want your roux to fold behind that spatula and kind of fold in, kind of like a boat with the wakes folding in behind the boat. If it's too watery or too runny, it's going to be very greasy, and I don't know, just that's not how T-Guid was taught. So let's get over to the pot and get going, baby. All right, so look, guys, we're at the outdoor kitchen. We got our black 9-quart cast iron pot on the stove. We got our wooden spatula. Don't want to use metal spoons with the stainless steel with the flat bottom on cast iron. It's like my boy Dirk says, his grandmother be like, man, I can't believe you're doing that. It's a stainless steel pot or a Magnolite pot. Hey, more power to you. And take our oil, the equal portions now. I'm gonna show you what I meant by this. 2 cups of vegetable oil and 2 cups of flour. We're gonna pour that in our pot. Before we get into the wooden spatula, so that we can get it all emulsified real quick, we're gonna use a little whisk. And then we're gonna start stirring it. And I'll show you what I meant by you're gonna need a little bit more flour than you will the oil. You still think it's a little too runny and you've been cooking it down for a little while? Don't freak out. You can add more flour later. It'll catch up. The flour will catch up with the heat. It'll foam up real quick. So this is what I was talking about. Watch this. You see how it's real runny. And T-Guid don't like that. Look, we're gonna take some more flour before it gets going a little too far. We're gonna add a couple of more, probably add about, what's that? 1/4 cup. So we're gonna add maybe a 1/2 cup more. Stir that around. We talked about, it looks like it's got the foie, the diarrhea. We don't want diarrhea, guys. We want loose bowels. I know that sounds gross, huh? I can tell just by working my whisk in there. But we're gonna go a little bit more, maybe about another 1/4 cup. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right. And I was watching another TikTok guy that I follow. He's not from Louisiana. He's not from South Louisiana. He's not from Louisiana, but he's a very successful seasoning guy. And he had this other guy, I think he was a NASCAR or maybe a bass fisherman, I don't know. And look, guys, that's what you want. See it folding in behind? Nice and easy. That's what you want. And what he was doing is he had that dude stirring constantly. I think it took an hour and a half because he had it on a very, very low fire, which you want a low fire, but man, he had it like on really low. And he had that dude stir. I think he needed to go see his orthopedic surgeon for like rotator cuff surgery afterwards. I guarantee he was taking some Advil the next day. You don't have to work it that hard, guys. Look, we're gonna turn the burner on like a medium to high just to get the temp up. And once we see bubbles happening in the roux, then you turn it down to like not a simmer, but a lower setting to where you want to get it to start to turn. Okay, guys, that took about less than a minute, turning the heat up to a medium high to get this kind of to like a bubbling, like lava bubbling. And we're going to turn the burner down again, not to simmer, but to a very low setting. And what you want to do is you want to stir, not constantly, but you don't want to neglect this, guys. You want to kind of let the heat do its thing. You want to stir about every 20 seconds or so. You don't want it to stick to the bottom. If it sticks to the bottom, it could burn the flour, and then you can have a bitter taste to your roux. Stir about every 10 to 20 seconds. Come in here. You don't have to sit here constantly and do this. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. You don't have to. The other thing I want to talk about, guys, is there's nothing that matches the aroma of a roux being cooked in a pot. I mean, it's unmistakable. To me, it's one of the best smells you can have in your kitchen, in your house. When I would come home from school, Mom would be making that roux for the chicken and sausage gumbo, because back then you couldn't buy it in a jar. You had to make it yourself. It was just like, oh my God. It was either we were having a stew of some sort or a gumbo. And the smell in the house was absolutely intoxicating. You hear me? So this is where you're gonna start getting that smell and enjoy it. Like I said, you don't have to stir it constantly, every 10 to 15 seconds. If it seems to be cooking a little fast, you can turn it down just a little bit more. But the secret is to not just put it on and leave it alone. You gotta stir it from time to time. So let's talk about how long does it take for that roux to kind of start to turn. Depending on your heat and depending on how much ingredients you have in your pot. I mean, it could take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes even longer if you have a lot. The more ingredients, the more flour and oil you have in your pot, probably the longer it's going to take to start turning. What I mean by start turning, when it starts browning on the bottom of that pot and the color starts to change. So what color are we looking for? In my opinion, it depends on what kind of gumbo you're cooking. I mean, you have traditionally a chicken and sausage gumbo or a seafood gumbo, neither of which in Lafayette, Louisiana, you're going to find tomatoes in a gumbo, or corn, or all these other crazy stuff that you see people putting in there. But that's all right. That's for another show. Chicken and sausage, I like mine a little bit lighter than I like in my seafood gumbo. My seafood gumbo, I'm looking for like a dark, almost like a dark chocolate kind of color. And the darker you go, traditionally, a little bit more of a bite flavor that it has in the roux. So what I'm looking for is like a milk chocolate or just under a milk chocolate color. And what you need to keep in mind is that this roux, once you take it off the heat, will continue to cook. And so that means it'll continue to darken, even without stirring, even with no heat underneath the pot. When you pass your spatula and you see that browning effect on the bottom of the pot, and the smell is unbelievable. But that darker color at the bottom of the pot, as you stir, will blend and emulsify with the rest of the roux on the top surface, so it'll start mixing and getting a darker color. What I find is that I'll take it off the heat when I get about 2 shades before I get to the color that I really want. And when I put it off the side of on the counter and let it cool off, and you go check on it, because we're going to take some of this out and save it for later, you're going to find that it's actually gotten to that darker color. So right here, again, you see how it's folding behind my spatula. I added more flour, and the flour caught up with the other roux, so it doesn't take long. But the smell. Ooh. So now we're about twice as dark as we were when we talked about it the last time. It's getting there, guys. And every time I stir it, more smoke is coming up off the bottom, you know, cooking that flour down. This is getting, it's gonna speed up even more. So we're just about literally 10 minutes from pulling this off the fire. All right, it's getting close. We are just about there. I'm gonna turn the fire off, pull it from the fire, and let it just kind of keep cooking, but put a cover on it, let it cool down naturally. And when we pull that lid off the pot, you're gonna see what color it's gonna end up. Final shot. That's what we're looking for. You look at that color, dark milk chocolate color, the smell, that aroma, so intoxicating. Now what we're gonna do, guys, we're just gonna remove this from the pot and we're gonna let it cool down. And when we do our gumbo, we're gonna throw our vegetables in there, get it going, add our broth, brown our chicken and everything. You know, we're gonna do the gumbo, but that's a later show for a later time. One last tip: if you buy jarred roux, they're gonna have a layer of oil at the top, and all the sediment, all that flour has a tendency to settle and get really hard as it cools down in the refrigerator. When you undo it, you wanna pour that oil out, you know, measuring cup or something, a bowl or something. Use the amount of roux that you want, put it in your pot, and then when you're done, take that oil, pour it back in the roux jar, put the lid back on, and put it in your refrigerator. You always gotta refrigerate roux after you've broken the seal. But that oil, what it does is it seals the roux and keeps contaminants out and keeps that roux nice and moist and keeps it good. So that's it, boys and girls. See you next time. This is T-Guid saying au revoir, bruh.